is one of them. So I'm going to hand over to Kevin, and Kevin's going to run through a little bit of what Vivotek is doing with the camera platform. Kevin, I'm not sure how to dish this through to you. Let's take a look here. No. Can you grab it from your side? George, can you push it over to Kevin?
Nothing's popping up yet. Okay. I assume you guys can see me loud and clear.
Thanks, Kevin. We can see your screen.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you guys. It's cool to be a part of a team that's introducing this new concept in the market, well, our market at least. So I'm just going to touch on a few key concepts. Again, my name is Kevin Padiachi. I am the representative for Vivotek locally. So Vivotek's definitely not new in the industry. They've been around for a while now, around 21 years. They were one of the first IP camera manufacturers. They're based in Taiwan. They became part of the Delta group in 2017, and that has allowed them to input even more resources into further collaboration with other providers and parties out there in the same space of surveillance. So they're one of the top 50 vendors in the world when it comes to security solutions, and we operate in over 120 countries. So, you know, Vivotek's been driven by a couple of key pillars over the years. So I think it's important to mention because it ties into the entire alliance. So firstly, innovation. We're trying to do something new all the time to inspire the market. All production happens out of Taiwan. And lastly, in terms of reliability, it's one of the renowned brands in the market. We've got sites that are well over 8 to 10 years old, and many customers not wanting to let go of old generation cameras. But I mean, if it provides a good image and it's still working, then I assume they are justified in keeping the site going. Part of innovation are a couple of key concepts, and that being, firstly, we try and offer the best image quality possible, whether it be the most entry-level camera to our high-end products. Edge-based analytics have become sort of the center of video surveillance in recent times. And then offering video surveillance as a service. So there's no point in having a system that cannot be accessed from anywhere in the world. And there's no point in having multiple systems all over the world without being able to centrally manage them. And that's what we're trying to drive with the collaboration with these different entities. So the vertical markets that we chase after specifically would be such as traffic management, transportation, providing hardware, surveillance cameras, and recording devices that are vibration compliant for these environments, and also manufacturing and industrial, where we see the biggest growth. Many customers looking to just monitor general human movement in dangerous environments. So out of the couple of concepts that I want to introduce today, the first being the introduction to the Open Security and Safety Alliance, just what the security and safety thing store is about, and then lastly, the Vivotek hardware that's behind this. So we've seen over a couple of years now that analytics have become a large focus for IP manufacturers, and simply because the cost of hardware has been decreasing constantly over the last 10 years. And to differentiate, we've had to offer additional value inside our cameras. And also, we've seen that it's been very challenging for developers to enter this kind of market because they just don't have the resources to put together applications. And when they even do, generally it's very specific on hardware. So they cannot apply it to the entire market. They can only apply it to certain brands. And hardware vendors like ourselves try to release applications into the market to try and help our customers gain benefit from video surveillance But again, it's very closed because we can only provide these applications for our devices, and not many customers may necessarily have a Vivotek product on hand. So the drive for video analytics has brought about the Open Alliance to allow this to move forward. So if you look at the Open Security and Safety Alliance, they have a couple of, if you want to call it organizational goals. But I think the most important factor for Vivotek was their drive to create and promote a common place where people could meet to develop applications for software and hardware. So if you look at our current approach, we develop an app specifically for a camera. It's a proprietary platform, so it would have to be only for that camera, Linux embedded OS, and then the chipset would be dependent on the type of camera that we'll be manufacturing. And we're trying to move towards the open platform. So again, now you have applications in a common place where you could go and find them as opposed to in different places. There's a standard platform where people would integrate on, and there's a really strong chipset behind it, so the possibilities are much higher. And lastly, the security and safety things store is where everything happens, so we can all meet at the store to find the various applications that would appeal to us. So what's important about the security and safety things store is that it offers a common platform for people to develop on. So basically a single OS, there's a standard kit to develop on, and lastly the application store where all these apps, specifically Saimos, would be, so you can access them and start installing and playing around on your camera. So Vivotek did try and offer this type of platform to customers. The challenge with this is the number of developers we had were limited compared to the vast majority out there. Secondly, computing power available. Our chipsets were not specific for every environment, so it would be limited in amount of computing power, which would limit the type of application or developments we could do. The learning curve would be high because it would be proprietary, and whether you could install this on multiple cameras was not the case, because we'd have to have a specific chipset before you can install the application. Deployment, I put the word annoying in. It might not sound professional, but the fact of the matter is, when there's an application, it would have to be uploaded into the camera manually, and if there was an update, we'd have to do that manually. We'd also have to, again, have issues with web browsers and have issues with certain aspects that would make the deployment of the application a little cumbersome. So this is where the safety and security things store comes into play, because again, there's a multitude of developers out there that are talking to the end user, the customer, to find out what they need, and they are refining applications all the time. We've got a very strong Qualcomm engine behind it to allow them to develop strong applications. As you can see, the whole point of the system is such that the chipset on board is standard, so that any application developed on this platform would easily be installed into the device as long as the chipset was present. And currently they have just over 40 applications. This is changing all the time. So again, every time there's an end user with a query, they can go to the platform. Even if the application doesn't exist, we can engage and find out if this is possible from one of the developers. So this brought about the need for Vivotek to create hardware to support the Open Security and Safety Alliance. So we came out with the Insight series. There's a couple of factors in this actual word, but the main thing is that we're trying to gain sort of value and try and gain intelligence from the data that we are generating. Vivotek always aimed to be the eye in IoT, and we are very capable of providing that video footage now. But the most important thing is offering value to our customers when we do provide that footage. So that's where the entire Insight series stems from. So the first product that's quite exciting is basically an all-in-one camera. So if you are looking for the ability for a camera to have access to the safety and security things store, we could do this natively from the FD9392, which is pretty much an 8 megapixel high-end 4K 30 frames per second H.265 compliant camera. It's one of our gems, especially when you consider the engine behind it. And the interesting thing is now you have access directly to the store where you can install the Saimos app natively onto the camera without you needing any other device. These are normally PoE powered cameras from standard PoE switches, nothing fancy. They are outdoor compliant as well, so you could place them outside. But the most important part is the actual interface of the camera. So you can expect to see the standard Vivotek interface on the camera, but alongside that would be the actual ASA interface where we'd now be able to log in, install different apps from the safety and security store, and then figure out what we'd like to achieve. So this would be the basic architecture. The camera would firstly have an app installed onto it, and then it would use the metadata via OnViv to talk to Milestone and represent all those events accordingly. Now, if you had a camera such as this, you obviously would have access directly to the store, but then you might want to add the same functionality to a standalone camera that does not normally have edge-based analytics or a non-Vivotek camera, and this is where you can get away using the AI box. So this is again very basic device in its appearance, but I can assure you it's very simple to set up, PoE powered, so it makes it very easy to integrate into a network, and has the security and safety things operating system present in it. So this allows you to change any basic camera that obviously is IP based and has the adequate resolution to allow you to apply edge-based analytics to it from the store. So the architecture here would be again anywhere on the network because it's PoE powered, and then from that point on you would register your camera via RTSP stream, and once that's done you can just log into your account and again install applications as you would want them. The key difference between the two devices is essentially the AI engine behind it, so the chipset. The AI box is a lot more capable in terms of its computing power. So if you were planning to run multiple applications at once or multiple types of analytics, the AI box would be the way to go. And in terms of the interface, they're actually very similar. So as you can see here, on the right-hand side, you've got remote device management. This would be on the AI box. So if you were adding a third-party camera via the RTSP stream, you would use this interface. But if not, on the left-hand side, you would see this is a typical camera interface for the application store. And there's not much to do here once you install the application. The application runs in the back end. You start to see some of the metadata on the live view. And if you're using Milestone, you can actually see them represented quite nicely in an alarm screen, for example. So thank you very much. And I think Saimos would have a bit more to show us in terms of how the analytic actually works.
Kevin, that's actually phenomenal. It's like a lot of people are running to vendors because they've got this one unique analytics. Or I want to do facial, or I want to do something. And I think what's changing now is that security and safety of things, you just want to make sure on that investment of camera, because that camera might be on site for 4 or 5 years or 8 years or whatever it is, but the applications are going to increase exponentially depending on the brand you do. So if you're not buying into that security and safety alliance, you might be buying obsolete AI or technology. You might not get the value later on. And I'm sure a lot of the vendors, if you buy that app, you'd also get the updates and it'd be easier to update. So I'm very excited, and we certainly as FD believe the way to go is a security and safety alliance type products. And certainly with the way AI and how this affects our business, and other fields of life, not just security, we're going to see more and more cameras out there. I really do like the fact that Vivotek is just a little extra thought process to take on legacy cameras. A lot of people have got cameras out there and they want AI on them. If you can put that box next to your camera and then feed it into Milestone, you wouldn't know the difference. But make an old camera clever, that's just awesome. I'm going to hand over to Jürgen, and maybe he's going to show us how we can